and have never been anything but an Episcopalian. And yet I still find riches in here. Gail, much in the same way. And so you can find all kinds of instructions about liturgical life, personal prayer life, just in the instructions here. But if you'll go to page 19, here is a calendar of the saints of the church. Now you'll notice right there on January 10th is a guy named William Laud, who we just heard about today as Archbishop of Canterbury. Being a little narcissistic, I of course went to see if anybody was on my birthday, which happens to be March 9th. And by golly, Gregory, Bishop of Nyssa, day is on March 9th. So you may want to go look at your birthday or other important days. But you can get a flavor of the history of this church. Because you'll look here, Julian of Norwich was in here. Where was she? Yeah, Dom Julia. But you'll find just above her, Monica, who was the mother of Augustine, 387. Our church history goes, Jim talked about it, but this gives you that sense of that flavor. And of course, we've done morning prayer. The book kind of moves in order first of the day. If you think about it, it starts with morning prayer, which we've done. We did noonday prayer, which follows that. And then it starts, and morning prayer you have rite 1 and rite 2, as you do in evening prayer as well. Then after morning prayer 2 is the noonday prayer, and then evening prayer 2. But then, right after that, was Compline, which we'll do in a little while. Compline was a service that was done at the end of the day. It's sort of that now I lay me down to sleep prayer time. And it's got some prayers in here that we'll do that every time I pray. They're just wonderful thoughts to be ending the day with. But then, here's daily devotions for individuals and families. This is the praying of the hours right here. Morning, daily devotions, morning.
What page are you on?
That's, I'm on page 137. Sorry. Thank you for asking. Noon, early evening, and at the close of the day. What I like to do is go read the instructions. To find out what's the history and what's the purpose behind these things. And then, of course, we move into the great feast of the church.
On what page?
On page 148, we start with the Great Litany, which we have done here in the past. We've sung it, we've had folks chant it. This is usually done on the first Sunday after Ash Wednesday. And right after that, seems kind of odd that they would put it in this place, are all the collects. Earlier, when I did morning prayer, there was a place there where it called for the collect of the day, and I looked over and I read it, and I could hear several people trying to figure out where it was that I was praying that prayer. And as a good priest, I didn't bother telling you where it was. Which, from time to time, when we're up here, sometimes I recognize that some of us have been doing this for so long we forget what people don't know about our liturgy and about our service and the directions they need. But then, if you'll move on over to, and I just had it there.
I like that there's two sets of collects, the traditional
Yeah, there is.
and
There's rite 1 and rite 2. On page 264, then begins the season of Lent. It's the Ash Wednesday service. You'll find a service in there for Palm Sunday, another one for Maundy Thursday, and Good Friday, and then the Easter Holy Saturday, and then the Easter Vigil. Joe spent quite a bit of time going over the Eucharist, so I'm not going to spend any time on that. But starts with confirmation. Actually, somewhere in here, I think it's back on 299. Yeah, 299 is baptism. But you have confirmation and reaffirmation, a form of commitment for Christian service. So if somebody just wants to recommit themselves. Celebration of marriage, thanksgiving of birth or adoption of a child, reconciliation. So once the child grows up, they got to go and get right with God. There's Form 1 and Form 2 in here. Ministration of the sick, and then at the time of death in the burial office. Again, I think Rick and Gail will be talking about the sacraments next. I'll put a plug in for them 2 weeks from now. On November 19th is entering the sanctuary. And we're going to talk specifically about the sacraments. So they'll spend maybe a little more time on some of this. Somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I seem to remember that at one point in time, at some point in the history of the church, burial was also considered a sacrament. I could be wrong about that, but I seem to remember about that. You can go Google it and find out whether or not that's true or not. And then, and the last thing, after you get a priest and a bishop, then they have consecration of the church. So the book is ordered kind of in the progression of life and how things actually happen. But then the Psalter begins on page 582. And just reading the instructions here about how the Psalter is put together. In the middle there it says 3 terms are used in the Psalms with reference to God. Elohim, which you'll find translated as God in the Psalter. Adonai, which they translate Lord. And the personal name, YHWH, which we would say Yahweh. The 4-letter name, Tetragrammaton. Now that's the first time I've ever heard that term. Rick probably knows it backwards. Yeah. Sort of like transubstantiation and consubstantiation. Yeah. Is probably to be vocalized Yahweh. But this is by no means certain because from very ancient times it's been considered too sacred to be pronounced, and whenever it occurred, Adonai was substituted for it. In the oldest manuscripts, the divine name was written in antique and obsolete letters. In more recent manuscripts and Bibles, after the invention of vowel points, the name was provided with the vowels of the word Adonai, which is from which we get the word Jehovah. And all that's right there in our prayer book. You know, it's really rich history. And then, of course, the Psalter begins after that, and as I talked about earlier, right after the Psalter is the lectionary, years A, B, and C, as well as years 1 and 2. I would invite you to go and read through this, and especially the instructions. I mean, I think the instructions, they give that sense of history and flavor. It begins to, one of the things I've enjoyed about today, and I've learned as a cradle Episcopalian, I still don't know it all, I've learned so much about the rich history that we have, and about why things are put together. There is a lot of thought that has gone into the whole service that we do today. So, we want to do the Q&A first?
Well, yeah, I want to offer an opportunity for you guys to bring up anything that you wanted to ask or speak about from whatever Mary presented or Joe presented or John has presented. John?
John, you didn't mention on page 867 the articles of religion.
You're right, I didn't.
That tells you what we're supposed to believe according to the church.
That would be good reading if you can't. I mean, it would be important to know. It's not very metaphysical.
No.
Looking at all of this, you see that the church is still developing.
Yes,
We're still in motion.
absolutely.
As the the 1979 prayer book, right? So we have the 1928 before that, so I think there is some rumblings about a new one.
And, yeah, the next one's going to drop that part where it says, so proceeds from the Father and the Son, it's going to drop and the Son. That was added in 600.
So what happens to the foot washing ceremony?
You do it.
We do it. I didn't see it in the prayer.
It's Monday, Thursday.
Monday through
There
Saturday.
is and it may be in there, I don't know, I don't know if it's, I didn't look at the specific Monday, Thursday service. There's some supplements to the prayer book, called the Book of Occasional Services, and I didn't look specific, it's probably in the Monday, Thursday service. Is it on there? Yeah. Yeah. But that book is also used,
And we do that here.
just as a form of, yeah, we do.
We do that washing the feet stuff here.
One year we did hands.
Yeah. Must have been a bad feet here.
Was that introduction?
Maybe so.
Out?
I have a question.
Sure.
Why is it on some altars, they have 5 points, each corner, and the very center they have a crucifix or a cross? And some have them, some don't.
This one does. Corley, I don't know if you can answer that question.
I don't think, does this
Put
one
you on
have
the
it?
spot.
I don't think this one has it, because I was told that it didn't have it.
It's not on the altar, it's on the prayer linen.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on the linen, no? See, some of them have it on the altar itself.
But the altar is covered.
Yes. But then they have that ceremony when they sanctify and close the church, they wash the altar and they wash those 5 points.
I'm not saying that.
Also, they don't have that one here.
No, it's on the prayer linen.
John, in the 79 prayer book, like on page 364, you have the 2 choices of the Lord's Prayer. Were both of those in there at the time? It's just whichever one you want.
I think that becomes personal preference.
But I mean, they were both there. This isn't something, the second one wasn't added later on. I mean, they were both
No,
there.
that was in there at 1976.
But there are other places where you have the little choices, or it'll say or. Okay.
I think sometimes that's used during certain times of the year too, isn't it? You use one prayer over the other, rather than personal choice.
I think it ends up being personal preference. My personal preference, following Joe's, is that we follow the order of the language of the service, so that if we're in Rite 2 service, we use the Rite 2 Lord's Prayer. If we're in Rite 1, we use the Rite 1 Lord's Prayer. I mean, generally speaking, so many people are comfortable with the King James Version of the Lord's Prayer that they just, I did it today. I used morning prayer too, but I did the King James Version of the Lord's Prayer in the midst of that and realized it about into the Our Father piece. So I think it's more personal preference.
So the second version, the one on the right, is the right, considered the right 2, and the one on the left is the original King James.
It's the King James, not the original Lord's Prayer, but the King James.
Makes sense.
I have a totally offbeat comment to say.
Awesome.
As a graphic designer, this is a beautifully designed book with classic typography. Stunning. Really. I know that y'all think you probably take it for granted, but it's gorgeous.
I just picked up on something
there's times in my life when I'm ready for right two, and then, which I do all the time, it's right two. And then there's times when I'm just to relax and be right three, That's so, it's not only can it be one, so to speak, particularly to one person most of the time, but it can also, all the services can speak to all of us at some point in our lives, and some places in our lives where we are. Those beach Sundays, that's right three for me. Come here in my shorts. So.
I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, there's you always find, well, because I've grown up in the Episcopal church, I don't know exactly how it is in other places, but this reluctance for some people to pray extemporaneously, because we come from such a beautiful tradition, and the prayers, they're just beautiful. The way they're written, they're so carefully crafted that when we hear that, you think, I can't do that. I can't approach the beauty, that are created in those prayers. I think, it's, to let go of that, and step into just praying what comes from your heart. But I think sometimes with Episcopalians, there's more reluctance because we're accustomed, that's what a prayer should sound like, to sound like something.
Mary did a good job of leading us in that effort today.
Right.
Praying.
Most of us, if we've been in the Episcopal Church very long, will find ourselves doing extemporaneous prayer in college form.
That's true.
You really will, that same kind of order and cadence will come out. My comment as presider is encouragement to look at the rubrics John called the rules. There are a lot of places where they say the priest or the officiant may do something. That's optional. There are other places where it says this will happen. That is optional. So, a lot of times folks over the years have come and said, why can't we do this or that? Well, I'm not allowed. And we are people in our prayer book, also kind of with an authority of the prayer book, order of worship. So keep it from becoming too chaotic. So, it is permissible to stand during the Eucharistic prayer. It says you may stand or kneel for the prayers of the people, or the tradition here, obviously, most people will kneel. And I find that particularly amusing, and I think it's Eucharistic prayer B, where everybody's on their knees, and the prayer says, you've made us worthy to stand before you.
All right. So I think we'll move into Compline now, and feel free to go down afterwards and visit some more and finish off those goodies, and I can be some help when I get opportunity. So John's going to lead us.
Page 127. And I would invite